This is the Ethereum 1 month overview reading for the month of January 2024. It's currently November 25th, 2023, 7:41 p.m. Eastern Time. Ethereum at the time of this reading is currently $2,080.91. That's USD. And the shuffle video that we're about to play for you was created on October 25th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video right here in the corner. So the overall theme and behavior for the month is a period of volatility and a sharp drop that stands out in that period of volatility. It's crossed with a U-shaped dip that forms between two peaks, and it's usually near the intersection of two perpendicular diagonal trend lines. The behavior around the highest high, we have a resistance level that's highlighted around the highest high that we've met many times before and failed to break through. Behavior around the lowest low, we have an unexpected move higher out of the low. It'll really stand out on a 1 month chart, the move out of the low, or lows. But overall, it's looking like a pretty mixed month, bearish overall, but pretty mixed. Not necessarily bearish overall, actually, but pretty mixed month. And before we get into the day-by-day chart behavior, as well as where the prominent highs and lows are, and trade opportunities and all that, I want to make sure that everybody's aware the whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. And we do that here on the resources tab of our website, tarotfortraders.com, where 5% of the profits from every profitable trade should be donated forward to a charity through one of these links here. Just click here and donate and help advance the research of parapsychology or help cure Alzheimer's, you know, like do something good with some of the money. And then 5% of the profit should be donated back to the channel to say thank you and support the channel. It leaves you with 90% of the money left over and abundance mentality. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you do that, the universe considers you an angel investor. The channel is going to send it back to you tenfold through this channel. Neglect to follow through on that rule of karma, my friends, which is following those rules. And the universe is going to neglect to follow through on the abundance flow through this channel. So don't be that guy. And with that said, let's get back into it. All right, so on the first, we have a rally along a diagonal trend line. We break through horizontal resistance, meet a second resistance before pulling back to somewhere between those two price levels. There's really one local high on a one-day chart there. So what I mean by local high is on a one-day chart, you'll see one crest or peak. So there's some sort of decline there between the first and the second because we have a lowest low here around the morning of the second and a notable move higher out of that lowest low. That'll be our lowest low thus far, I should say, and a notable move out of it on the second. Sometimes this is like a gap up, the adjustment card. And on the third, misdirection of some kind. Misdirection on the third. Usually it's some sort of like scary decline or something like that. We do have a trough around the cusp of the third, fourth, and then there's a peak on the fourth that we sell off from through multiple supports into a sideways rotation around the cusp of the fourth, fifth, establishing support, and then a big move higher taking us to a high there, a prominent high. Troughs at the end of the day on the fifth, so it doesn't look like it holds. Another notable move higher on the sixth through a key resistance level on a 1 month scale. We break through that resistance, we stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through the same price level with a full retracement and some, taking us into another prominent lower trough there towards the end of the day on the sixth. There's a trade opportunity around the fourth and another trade opportunity around the sixth, and we'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. So out of the trough, there's sideways rotation establishing support into the seventh, and then a fast sudden move higher, ending that period of sideways rotation. There might even be like a gap up towards the end of the day. We meet like an important price level towards the early afternoon, and then there's like a gap up into the end of the day into another prominent peak. And then we have price swings on the 8th. On the 9th, we have a important trade opportunity. There's volatility there. I don't know about necessarily a notable move higher. It's actually looking more like a decline on the 9th. There is a prominent peak around the 9th as well, though, and then a prominent trough on the 10th. So we probably decline into the 10th, and then there's a fast sudden move higher on the 10th. We have like a key resistance at the end of the day, and then we like jump up higher to another prominent peak after meeting that resistance there. Bound by a range on the 11th. That's a range on a 1 month scale minimum, and there's a trade opportunity there on the 10th and on the 11th. Oh, there's also one on the 7th. We'll talk about all those in more detail in the paid version. Let's take a look and see how we're doing for November thus far. We ended up having a lowest low on the 3rd, ironically enough. So we were off by a couple days on the lowest lows on a lot of the Novembers that ended up being this, the first of the month, and we had it for the 3rd, but here we just like we neglected to even register it. So for whatever reason, there's a trough there, it's obvious. Then we have a highest high. I have it for the 6th, 7th, and you could say there's a highest high thus far for the 6th and the 7th. Opportunity there in the midst of a rally on the 7th to open up a short position or close a long position, right? And you can see how that worked out pretty well, taking us into a trough, which I have for the 9th, ends up being kind of like right there around the 8th, 9th, actually, based on if you take out the intraday spikes. And then on the 9th, there's a rally that increases with momentum moving forward in time. Look at that big green candlestick, and then some selling from a peak the next day. We have a lowest low for the 15th. Looks like we were off roughly by a day. And then we have the lowest low again on the 19th, and it looks like we missed that by another, well, actually the 19th came here, so it is another lowest low. And then it looks like what we missed was there's indications here of the 21st, 22nd having another lowest low, and it looks like I missed that. But this is a pretty solid reading, aside from a couple things that I missed. So we should see some rallying here, and then it looks like we go into another lowest low on the 27th, 28th. But overall pretty accurate, especially if you're following the trades, you would have made quite a bit of money. So prominent peak on a 1 month scale there at the end of the day, around the cusp of the 10th, 11th. And then we get into a sideways S formation on the 12th after a trade opportunity there at the end of the day on the 11th. Sideways S formation, usually it's overall decline, but not always. But what it is a decline from a resistance down to a support. You do a reversal, go all the way back to the original resistance, do a reversal again, and go all the way back to that support, creating like a sideways S within a channel. Peak at the end of the day, somebody speaking around the cusp of this 12th, 13th that impacts Ethereum, and it looks like it's pretty positive because we have a fast sudden move higher on the 13th, taking us to another prominent peak towards the end of the day on the 13th. On the 14th, we decline to and through support to meet a second support, and then we rotate sideways along that support on a multi-day scale. There's also a trade opportunity there. On the 15th, an important resistance level highlighted. Usually we see with the Truce card, we kind of like see like a lull in volume a lot of the time. On the 16th, there's a rally into key resistance, and then we decline with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down. It looks like that decline continues and increases with the momentum into the 17th. Trade opportunity on the 17th, I'll talk about in more detail on the paid version. Also, a probable location of another prominent trough somewhere around the 16th, 17th, 18th. It's really within close time proximity to a prominent peak or crest again, which there's probably a lot of ground cover to the upside on the 18th from a trough early in the day or on the 17th. Move higher to a peak or crest on the 19th, and then from that peak or crest, a prominent peak or crest, we sell off pretty notably through multiple supports, declining into the 20th. On the 20th, we have a big move out of that decline from the bottom of the range all the way to the top of the range, and then on the 21st, we're declining again. That offers an opportunity, and it looks like towards the end of the day on the 21st, we may even be back at a peak. It's either the end of the day on the 21st or on the 22nd, and we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance there, followed by a decline through key support. There's very likely a prominent trough here around the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. It might be two prominent troughs or three even, but there's at least one somewhere around the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. On the 23rd, we have a notable decline, especially middle part of the day on the 23rd, and we revisit a support level that we recently met once before, probably the same support we saw around the 21st, 22nd. Bearish price swings on the 24th, a trade opportunity there as well. I'll talk about in more detail on the paid version. Bearish price swings and probably a sharp drop in there. And then on the 25th, we have a sideways fluctuating rally that precedes another decline on the 26th, and we have a peak at the end of the day on the 25th, and then a notable decline and a lot of ground covered from the 25th into the 26th, where we have a prominent trough at the end of the day on the 26th, another prominent trough in the beginning of the day on the 27th, but at a higher price level than the trough of the 26th, and we attempt to establish support there. I'm advised to be cautious on the 28th, some sort of tricky chart behavior going on there. And then we have the fortune card and the unicursal there on the 29th. So we probably have some sort of like fake out to the upside on the 28th through like a resistance, and then a notable reversal on the 29th into a sharp decline. Either that or we rally into the 29th, and then there's a reversal with a sharp decline continuing into the 30th. On the 30th, we have a notable decline through multiple supports. And then on the 31st, we successfully turned resistance on a multi-day scale into new support. So that's overall kind of bullish on the 31st. The sneak preview for February is an important trough on a multi-day scale. And it looks like we're coming up on possible lowest low for the year, but we'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. That's Ethereum for January 2024, my friends. Let me know what you think by hitting that like button. If you haven't done so, please subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma. Don't be that guy that gets shut off from the flow of abundance for not following through. It's really the right thing to do, and it's the universal requirement. So make sure to do that. Blessings to all my angel investors. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. All right, so as far as price level information goes, not really much relevancy going on, like as far as trades that I can see here, but we do have a price level here on the probably the cusp. It's either 2024 or 2025. We see Ethereum equal 4,800 at least. So we should revisit the highs. Not necessarily going much higher, but we should revisit those multi-year highs there. You know what? It's probably 2025 because I'm not seeing it might be 2024, but I'm not seeing the adjustment card as a cross-reading congruency. But in any case, we go from, there's a highest high here in January, it looks like early on, maybe again towards the end of the month, but we go from that into a lowest low at some point in February, and that would line up pretty well with the death card for February sneak preview and this unicursal at the end of the month. And then it does appear that we have highs towards the beginning of the month. So these are probably highest highs. Like this is the highest high thus far right here around the 5th, 6th. And I say the 5th, 6th because when I look at Bitcoin, we have a highest high around the 5th, 6th as well. So 5th, 6th. And then we'll see it again probably here on the 7th and again here on the 10th, and then we break through it a little bit on the 12th, followed by another move higher to a highest high again there on the 13th, most likely. And my sense is that that's probably where the highest high is. Like it's near this resistance level that we failed to break through many times before, right? I'm not so sure that this indication here, matter of fact, I'm going to remove that. I don't think this is a highest high here because it doesn't have the full correspondences. So probably the 12th, 13th, we have a highest high. And then as far as lowest lows are concerned, pretty strong indication that we have a lowest low for the month here around the 21st, 22nd. It's possible that we revisit it again here on the 26th, 27th. All right, so the way that I would read this is, let's say that this here on the 18th ends up being a lowest low thus far. And then the 22nd is the same price level as the 18th. Then I would say the 26th is probably the same price level as the 22nd and the 18th. If the 22nd ends up being lower than the 18th, 19th, then probably the 26th is the same price level as the 21st, 22nd there. So a quick short here at a near overbought peak here around the 4th, 5th, early morning on the 5th, probably after we have sideways rotation and then a big move higher to create a peak or highest high thus far. You could open up a short there and then close that short at a trough towards the end of the day on the 6th. There will be a trough towards the end of the day on the 5th. The trough at the end of the day on the 6th is going to be a lowest low thus far and lower than the trough of the 5th. Probably the same price level as the second or the low that we have here first thing in the month. I would stick to shorts here because the overall trend direction here is to the downside. Okay, so there's this resistance here that we probably come up against multiple times here between the 5th and the 11th, and then on the 12th, looks like we probably break through it. And I would say any price levels above, like a price level or a peak towards the end of the day on the 12th that's above this resistance that we bumped up against multiple times, that would be opportunity to open up a short. And I would say partial in case we have a higher price level later in the day on the 13th. And if we have a higher price level, then I would add to that short. You could close that short on the 14th, or you could risk it on the 18th, but I would close it on the 14th if you have the opportunity. A bird in hand's worth two in the bush. The longer you have your money in the market, the more likely you are to lose it. Everything, once your money's in the market, everything is working to keep that money from going back to you. So remember that. But let's say you miss the opportunity on the 14th, you probably get another opportunity on the 17th, if not a better opportunity. And on the 17th, I would probably open up a long position in the midst of that decline and close that long position in the midst of a pop and drop on a one-day chart there on the 18th. If you wanted to do a long, it might not be the most advisable thing, right? And so you have this price level is highlighted. There's an important price level on a multi-day scale there highlighted in late January. It's probably because we break down from that price level. So if we have a peak, a prominent peak here on the 18th as expected, probably towards the end of the day, or on the cusp of the 18th, 19th, I would open up a short there and close that short on the 21st in the midst of that decline. And then the sideways fluctuating rally on the 25th, I would open up a short position and close it at the end of the day on the 26th at the same price level as the 22nd, 23rd low, most likely. And then I would probably get into a short position here on the 29th. If we're at a higher price level than the 28th, on the 29th, I would get into a short position and close a short position on the 30th, open up a long position on the 30th, close a long position on the 31st, right? You can play both directions around that price level. So it looks like we'll probably revisit that price level. Okay, and then let's take a look at the Bitcoin versus Ethereum performance. It looks like Bitcoin outperforms Ethereum in January 2024. And that's Ethereum. Thank you so much for supporting the channel with the paid version of the Ethereum reading. Without people like yourself, we would not be able to put out this content. So you're a big part of what goes on here. Blessings to you. Blessings to all my angel investors. You know what to do. You know where to go. I'll see you guys on the next one.